Hello everyone and welcome to your NARSA weekly update for the week commencing Monday the 14th of November 2022. It's Gary here again and well, this has got a familiar feel to it, doesn't it? Well, where do we start with this past week in terms of our beloved football team, eh? Man, oh man. It has gotten so bad so quickly for us, and I can't help but feel that the title race is pretty much over at this early stage of the season as that mob from the East End just find ways to win games time after time after time, and we just seem to find ways to drop points time after time after time with shocking regularity and conjuring up different ways to just shoot ourselves in the foot. Giovanni has most certainly not had his troubles to seek, to be very fair, in terms of injuries and you know, a couple of key player sales, I guess you could say. But that doesn't give permission to make things all the more confusing in terms of what we're actually supposed to be trying to play like. I don't think I've ever seen a manager do this on any football team, like where there doesn't seem to be a kind of strategy. It's a kind of game to game thing. We'll try and figure it out as we go for. I'm not sure what he's doing. I'd love to actually find out. And it appears that the players just don't quite understand it, to the point that it looks like they're not trying as hard as they could. And not that they're, well, maybe not trying as hard as they could is a wee bit harsh, but they just seem, from a leadership perspective, you know, they just don't seem to quite understand what it is they're supposed to be doing. And I don't know if that's just I'm kind of half checking out here, or there's some other thing going on. You know, I guess you never really find that stuff out until after the fact. But I had mentioned that I was on the Heart and Hand, the daily update last Tuesday or Wednesday? Tuesday, and announcing David Edgar as our MC for 2023. And I talked about team member performance, and it comes down to, in my studies and experience, comes down to two major buckets: skill and motivation. You can have all the skill in the world, but if you're not truly motivated, you know, if the conditions are not completely conducive for you to be as motivated as you can be, then your performance and the eventual results won't be as positive or distinct as you would want them to be if you had all the skill in the world and were super motivated, if you know what I mean. And the players in this bucket right now, for me, seem to be the likes of Alfredo Morelos, Ryan Kent, Glenn Kamara, and I hate to say this, but a little bit of John Lundstrom as well. He's up and down like a yo-yo, and he looks like he's not quite putting in the shifts that he was putting in before, and I'm not 100% sure why that is. I know he's been moved around the pitch a lot and things, but the one thing that made us fall in love with him last year was he would just do anything that needed to be done anywhere on the pitch, and you know, for the betterment of the team. And that seems to have kind of deserted us a wee bit as well. I'm going to give Tav a little bit of a breather on this one, as I did give him a bit of a hard time last week, and the guy simply just has to be injured, because his dip in form has been just utterly incredible, and not in a good way, let me tell you. And anyway, so now conversely, you know, skill and motivation, you could be the most motivated team member but just not have the level of skill required to be able to get the results that you desire. So players in this category for me are the likes of Fashion Sakala, right now Rabi Matondo. I don't see what's, you know, there's been a couple of good games here and there, but boy oh boy, for the teams that he's been at and the transfers that he's been part of, it's just missing right now for us. A little bit like Scott Wright at times as well. You know, we know there's some skill there, but there's just it's just not at Rangers level. It doesn't seem to be, certainly not consistently enough anyway. So then what's the answer? Is changing the manager going to really mix things up to a point that we'll start picking up points with, you know, the regularity that we need? Perhaps it would, maybe. But our manager has proven in his first year in charge that winning domestic league games week after week after week is not his forte, not even close. He hasn't figured that out at all. As we talked about last week, or maybe the week before, I can't remember, but there's been a 12-point swing last season, and we already have a 9-point deficit this season. So that's 21 points conceded to our biggest rivals within a calendar year. That's just shocking statistics overall. I don't know the absolute breakdown of where the points have been lost, but the majority of them have been most certainly away from home, and that's a worry for the league, and you know, because we have to have to do that for half of the season. You know, we can play at Ibrox for half of the season, and then we have to go and play away for half of the season. And everything meaningful we achieve as a collective emanates everything that we do, like commercially and, you know, and like domestically and internationally, and our brand, our global brand, and everything emanates from domestic success. And the most important part of domestic success is winning the league. And, you know, storied chapters of our history, we most certainly don't have or haven't had our problems to seek this past decade or so. And what that means is we've won 2 top flight trophies in 10 years, the league 2 seasons ago and the Scottish Cup last season. And that means that our arch rivals have just chipped away at all of our outstanding records, and are almost back in par with us now, and you know, in terms of creeping up to 55 and things like that. So that's one thing. The other thing is that there just doesn't seem to be a positive end in sight for us, you know, a light at the end of the tunnel, if you will. Hopefully things will be different after the World Cup break, and, you know, we get some players back, because our team is absolutely at the bare bones right now, and just looking so vulnerable all over the pitch, quite frankly. The players look exhausted, and sometimes, as I alluded to a wee bit earlier, they are, you know, a wee bit disinterested, or less or less committed as they were before, possibly. And maybe with the other players back and a wee bit of freshness around the squad, that might raise things up for us. It's certainly not going to make us any worse. But, you know, who knows? I guess you never know with this team. But what I do know is that this is honestly just quite as dire as we've had it for some time. And I don't know about you, but especially for away games, I'm turning on RTV and expecting the worst to happen now, as we've had just tons of examples of how our vulnerabilities are there for everyone to see, and teams just know how to handle us and know how to exploit those vulnerabilities as well. And to be clear, by the way, I'm not the pessimistic fan type at all when it comes to Rangers games. Every week's a new week for me, and I'm almost like a goldfish where I'm like, oh, it's going to be much better now. This is the turnaround. And I guess maybe a better way to say it is I don't have the same level of enthusiasm right now around our team as I've enjoyed in the past, because you literally do not know what team is going to show up. We have an absolute air of predictability in and around us right now. But again, you know, with all the players that we have out right now, and then the dip in form that we have, we've received from other players, it's just a perfect storm of garbage for us right now, and it's just awful. I'd love to start with a wee bit more positivity, but quite frankly, I suspected that I was going to wake up this morning and there was going to be an announcement from the club to say, you know, we're going to do something different. And again, I don't know if it's all down to the manager, but the results are just nowhere near good enough. And whether he has enough goodwill in the bank from the run to Seville and the Scottish Cup from last year, and the number of injuries where, you know, the board maybe say, let's give him to the end of the season, see if we see an upturn in form, and take it from there, get some domestic success in the Cups, hopefully, something like that. I don't know. It would be kind of cool if the club came out and gave us a wee bit of an idea of exactly what was happening. I know that's not normal protocol for times like this, but, you know, I think we need a wee bit more of a sneak peek behind the scenes as to what the club is thinking, where the club is going, because this dignified silence works now and again, but not all the time. And, you know, we're back into our shell again. We were in our shell communication-wise for a number of months, and then we wheeled out, you know, John Bennett and Stu Robertson did some stuff, I think, and so did James Bisgrove, and then we haven't heard from anybody since. You know, like, this is not a good pattern from a communication and an engagement perspective, and I do continue to try and tell the club this sort of stuff, and but who am I? I'm just a wee baldy guy for Paisley. Anywho, so on the game segment, this will be the quickest game segment we've ever done, let me tell you. This one last time before the World Cup. We had 2 league games last week. Firstly, we struggled through a narrow 1-0 home win at home to Hearts, thanks to a goal from Malik Tillman, and it wasn't great, but we got the job done, got the 3 points. Positives, the result, and the Andy Halliday miss. Once a Ranger, always a Ranger sort of thing, and unless you're Fran Sandaza or Michael Francis O'Halloran, of course, but we don't talk about those types on this podcast. And we did get 3 players booked in this game. So my mini theory that I introduced last week of no players being cautioned and then us not winning games might actually have some legs there, you know, because we did get some bookings and we won the game. And another positive was Ryan Kent's second half performance. Back to his best for half a game, which was very nice to see, I guess. Better late than never, I suppose. Negatives, pretty dire to watch, and I didn't know at the time, but then Tony Goals being injured, which kept him out of the game against St Mirren on Saturday, was a bit of a blow. Referee watch, I don't recall him doing anything untoward that was annoying me, so he gets a 7 out of 10, which is kind of what I do when I can't remember anything to do with the referee. And our second game was Saturday's 1-1 draw in the most beautiful town in Scotland, and yet again we lost more ground in the championship race. I don't even know, quite honestly, do we get to even call it a championship race anymore with the way that we're performing in it? It's just it's a one team show the way things are going for right now. We had 75% possession and 11 attempts on target, and quite honestly did not look like scoring anything other than the penalty that we did get, and it's just been a rinse and repeat over the last wee while. So positives, a point away to a informed team who did take all 3 points off the EastEnders not so long ago. Maybe is that a positive? Kind of clutching at straws a wee bit, to be honest. Negatives, our defending again. We just did not start the second half at all. Like starting immediately from the kickoff with Alfie's bizarre booking, where he just went after the guy and shoved him, and then of course us falling asleep yet again from a throw in. You know, Leon King's injury, also a very big negative for us, and it looked just awful. And we did get the news today that it was a concussion right enough, and he's already on the mend. And, you know, concussion seems to be a strange byproduct or a strange injury to get when all that happened was a 6 foot plus tank barrels into the back of you with his elbow flying. It's kind of weird how that would work out. So on to that very thing. Referee watch. Kevin Clancy's an idiot. He's an absolute idiot. He was doing okay in the game. Actually, do you know what? Let me be a wee bit generous here. I thought he was having a solid game. I really did. And I think I've been duped with this clown before. And then he chose to book Alfie, as I mentioned there, you know, at the very beginning of the half. A talking to would have sufficed. You know, just like, what you doing? Don't be so stupid, that sort of thing. I mean, maybe in the letter of the law it had to be a yellow card. I don't know if it's a yellow card for any other player other than Alfredo Morelos, but quite frankly, that was the only decent thing Alfie did in the game anyway. And then he didn't do not a thing about Curtis Main's challenge on Leon King. Then, inexplicably, booked Ryan Kent for a dive when it was so apparent for everyone who was watching the game to see that it was the clearest of clear penalties. Then he takes his sweet time reviewing it at pitch side before overturning the yellow card, awarding the penalty, and generally just looking like a buffoon that he is. Really, he did, to be fair, you know, positives and negatives, he did add the correct number of minutes on at the end for, you know, for the time that was taken up for the injury and getting Leon King safely off the pitch. And I have to say that, you know, the 9 minutes that went up was a bit of a surprise. But the team being the team, it didn't really matter to us at that point, as we were just going nowhere fast. So all in all, for a combined ref and VAR show, they'll get well, you know what, this is the ref. The VAR kind of did their job, I suppose, a wee bit, apart from maybe the Leon King injury one. They're going to get a 4 out of 10 anyway, because I thought they were just garbage for the majority of the game. So what does that mean for our team? 9 points behind after 15 games and 17 goals behind that mob from the East End. Another 2 drop points means that the season shambles fest continues. So let's look for a wee second here. Just indulge me and look through royal blue tinted glasses for a wee second and say that at the winter break last year, I know it came at a different time because of the World Cup and stuff like that, but at the break last year, we were 6 points clear, and all but for a blip in the League Cup semi-final against Hibs, we looked as solid as a rock, and we're quite frankly, having a right laugh at our counterparts in the East End. And then we had the most dreadful of starts after the break, and we basically lost the league at that point. Of course, had the European run, you know, so So right now we're just 3 points worse off than they were last year. So, and we've got more games to make that catch up. You know, there's still 23 games to go. So that's a lot of points to play for. So maybe all is not lost. Glass half full and all of that sort of thing. So, no games to report for the next, 4 or 5 weeks. So I thank the big man upstairs for that, because I, for one, am looking forward to a break from Rangers for the next wee while, because that's been heavy this last month or so. My, oh my. For shout-outs this week, I wanted to start with a wee bit of an apology to two great Blue Noses that I missed wishing them a happy birthday last week when I should have, and I've actually no excuse for doing that. I just got a bit disorganised and didn't have my notes correct at the time. But however, what we're going to do is we're going to go back to my rule of 1 week before and 1 week after that I instituted when Big Hugh Serrell forgot Victoria's birthday last year. You're welcome again for that, Hugh. I'm going to mention them now. So firstly, on the 6th of November, our very own NARSA treasurer Alec Grant celebrated a significant birthday that I'm not going to reveal the number. I don't know if you get to a certain number and you don't mention it, but it ended in a 0, as I say, and it rhymes with mixty. And Alec headed home from his current base in New York City to spend it with his friends and family back home Glasgow, and by all accounts had a great time. The itinerary they had set up on the Saturday sounded absolutely amazing. So happy belated birthday, Alec, and I hope that you have recovered well and good, my friend. And secondly, the Rangers Supporters Club of Calgary's very own chef extraordinaire, Graham Hammy Hamilton, celebrated a significant birthday, also ending with a 0. And this past Saturday, what would that be, the 12th, and with a great party down at our old home in the Palomino Smokehouse. And just, again, like being respectful of age and my elders and stuff like that, I won't mention the actual age itself, but it rhymes with heaventy. And Hammy is a former long-term president of the Rangers Supporters Club of Calgary. In fact, I took over from Hammy back in 2000, what was that? Oh, 2008, something like that. And he was, of course, also one of our founding members back in 2000 as well. And as one of the boys said on Saturday, I think it may have been Davy McDonald, I'm not 100% sure, but at the party, that there were more younger folks at Hammy's party than there were older folks, which just goes to show how popular he is. And I think a lot of that has to do with his alcohol consuming tendencies, as they are somewhat legend in these here parts. So happy birthday, brother Hamilton. I did chat with him a little bit earlier today, and he seemed to be getting a wee bit back to the land of the living, so the party didn't take it too far out, or too much out of him. So that's a great thing. Happy birthday again, gents, and I hope you had a great time. For NARSA 2023, I can officially confirm that it's 200, now get this, it's 212 days and 30 weeks until Toronto Midtown hosts the biggest bash of the overseas Rangers year. Now, for regular listeners, and I kind of include myself in that because I kind of listen to myself when I'm recording this, last week I said it was 220 days and 31 weeks, and then just today, for whatever reason, I just basically do maths on my notes each week, and and today I just decided to check the app, and the app that I've got, the countdown app, says it's 212 days from today until the 15th of June next year. So I'm going to go with that and acknowledge that I've made a mess of it at some point down the line, unless the technology is wrong. It could be that, I don't know, who knows. Anyway, 212 and 30 weeks. So next week we're going to be in the 20s of weeks left. Oh my word. So we still have to get the hotel out for public sale, and that's completely my bad bears that it's taken so long, but we will endeavour to get that out this week. You know, as I was saying on David Edgar's podcast last week, we try and coincide the good news and the sales and stuff with some good stuff that's happened in and around Rangers land, so that people are in a bit of a good mood, quite frankly. And we haven't had a lot of that recently, so that's kind of spurred a wee bit of the strategy, I guess you could say. The strategy being we don't have a strategy unless we win games. So that's the reason why. But we now have a break where Rangers aren't going to spoil that for us for the next wee while, so we'll get a chance to really get moving on that. However, with the exclusive NARSA pre-sale for NARSA members, We are just over 31%, 31.31 sold out, which is a terrific start for us as well. Just a reminder, the Holiday and Flight Centre have their full packages together for folks who have expressed their interest in that as well. So if you go to attheconvention.com, you'll see what they have to offer. And remember, that's the full suite of the flights, the transfers, the convention tickets, the hotels as well. On top of us announcing David Edgar as our MC for Toronto 2023 last week, we do have a preferred list of VIPs that have been provided by the Toronto Midtown Rangers Supporters Club. And we are going to begin working on that this week too, just to start to get the invites out, to get the feelers out, see who we can confirm that are going to be available for us, and start to get on with those announcements as well. I think I've probably mentioned before, but maybe I haven't. What we do when the host club, signals their interest and then gets confirmed as the host club for the event, we then ask them if they had a list of 3 to 5 former players or VIPs that they would like to be invited, and then that gives us a wee bit of a feel and flavour for the club themselves and who their heroes are and where and things like that. So that's what we're doing. That's what we're going to get working on. So it really is time to truly get on with the planning and get some excitement out there. And as I mentioned, we are going to use the World Cup break to do just that very thing. In terms of convention tickets, we're in the same situation as we were the last couple of weeks. Excuse me, my voice is a wee bit hoarse today. I've been getting over a wee bit of a cold, and we might have the tickets good to go for this week. I had to make a wee change, which I actually still have to do, in changing some of the banking details within the ticketing system that we have. And once we get that, we're good to go. So we are just about there, folks, I promise, and we'll get the tickets out there. And as I say, really use this next 4 or 5 weeks to just get us to where we should be by this time in our planning efforts. And just a wee reminder that the NARSA exec, I mentioned last week that we are going to be heading to the hotel the first week in February to meet with the hotel staff, do the walkthrough, and meet and then hopefully enjoy a game with the Toronto Midtown Club. We will definitely meet. We will definitely go and watch the game. Whether we enjoy it or not is is the caveat there. It depends how the team's playing, of course, and that just gives us a chance to ensure that all of our logistics are well in hand for the event. So just a reminder of that the weekend is the 3rd to the 5th. The 3rd is the Friday, and the 5th is the Sunday, so the Friday to the Sunday. And we will be hosting our general meeting during that weekend too. So I'll keep mentioning that between now and then. For anybody that wants to come down, we'd love to see you either at the club or at the hotel, or maybe just of an evening as well. While we're there, we'll be there Friday night and Saturday night, of course. So get a chance to hopefully tip a few back with some friends. On the communications section for this past week, I've got a few things to share that I thought were quite interesting. I think it was last Tuesday, the club announced, and I'm just going to read the first wee part of this article here. 2 families of fallen US and British military heroes will meet and share their experiences before attending the Heart of Midlothian game at Ibrox tomorrow. So it was Tuesday last week. As part of a UK Football First pilot programme supporting military families, Rangers will mark Remembrance Day at this match with a range of activities, including a minute's silence, a can collection for Poppy Scotland, a piece in the matchday programme, and special Poppy embroidered shirts for the players. For the first time, the Remembrance game will also include a meeting between families from the US and Scotland who have lost family members who served in their respective armed forces. American military charity Tragedy Assistance Programme for Survivors, TAPS, approached Rangers to work on this groundbreaking pilot initiative to bring the families together to share their experiences. TAPS works exclusively in the USA in association with the NFL, NBA and MLB, and the Rangers Charity Foundation has become the first UK-based sports partner of the charity. I think that's just incredible. The work the Rangers Charity Foundation are doing is just absolutely out of this world, and just to see that being recognised, internationally as well is something that's just incredible. Just on the weekend there, actually, a little bit of an anecdote on the Charity Foundation. I was watching a video, a YouTube video from the 20th charity ball that they had, and it was the Julie Wales Special Recognition Award winner, and it was awarded to Walter Smith, OBE, and I actually didn't know that until I seen the clip for the video and then watched it, and the way that it was presented, the way it was discussed, the stuff that Walter used to do for the Charity Foundation, how inherently involved he was in it was incredible, and they had they had Ethel there collecting the award, and I think it was Stephen was there as well. Yeah, it was Stephen who was there just to collect it on on behalf of their dad as well. Just, it looked like a brilliant event. It looked very, very poignant the way that they were doing it, and just a great thing to see, and hopefully something that would have cheered Ethel and the family up, in and around the 1 year anniversary of Walter's passing as well. But anyway, back to the article. There's lots more in the article as well, so I'm going to put a link to the blurb, a link in the blurb for tonight's pod, and I'd encourage you to go and take a look at it. Really, really well done piece on the site there for last week, and such a brilliant cause as well. Rangers also, I mean, the big buzz from last week, of course, was also that Rangers published the annual report and accounts and the notice of the 2022 AGM, and the club overall financially seems to be in a much healthier financial position than we have been in well over a decade anyway, and things are really looking up with the modest profit that was made up to the end of June, I believe it was when the accounts closed. And it means that we started this fiscal year in a great position with the sales of Joe Aribo and Calvin Bassey, and of course the Champions League monies that we got for flopping 6 times in the Champions League. So by my reckoning, that's something like a 40 to 50 million pound boost straight away for this year's accounts, if my memory and my maths are right there. And the AGM is going to be held at the Clyde Auditorium at the SECC on the 6th of December at 10:30 a.m. So 10:30 a.m. Oh, that's 3:30 a.m. for me. I don't know about that, but for the shareholders amongst us out there, you will already have received your invite to the AGM via Tifosi, and I imagine, I mean, everyone is interesting, but this one is going to be very, very interesting, and I hope personally in some way that I'm able to attend either virtually or at least via proxy, and give my proxy vote to some trusted bear back home. I'm going to figure that one out over the next wee while and make sure that I have a presence there. But just with the way that the team are floundering right now, with a lot of the silence that's coming from the board, with the lack of a communication strategy now that David Graham's gone, it's going to be an interesting time. And usually they're quite colourful when we're in a little bit of a slump, which we kind of are for right now. So we'll see how that goes, as long as it's always respectful. That's the main thing. And finally for this week, I am absolutely delighted to tell you that next week, believe it or not, is the 100th edition of the NARSA Weekly Update podcast. Yeah, we're in the Century Club as of next week, my friends. And since December 2021, we've only missed the 1 week this past June there, and for a pretty good reason, and for folks who are regular listeners, you'll know what that reason was. And other than that, we have delivered NARSA specific news and viewpoints each and every week since then, so I'm very, very proud of that. And I'm still working on what we can do that'll add a wee bit of special feeling for next week's content. So, and I'm hopeful that we can do something just a wee bit different, maybe get some other folks on, and something like that. Anyway, we'll figure that out, but stay tuned, and I look forward to celebrating our 100th episode anniversary with you this time, or around about this time next week. So that's going to do it for this week, my friends. As always, I just cannot thank you enough for taking the time to listen, and please do share it with whoever you think might enjoy it, that has a spare half hour each week and just wants to listen to the ramblings of a wee baldy man. And until next week, here's to knowing with absolute certainty that the Rangers men's first team are not going to ruin, not even just next week, for the next 3, 4, 5 weeks, they're not going to get under our skin like they have for this last wee while, and that feels kind of great for right now, doesn't it? Oh my word. Until next week, folks, please do take care of yourselves, and all the very best. Cheerio.